Colin King. Now put Wainemaki.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'm very disappointed that the National Party are trying to shut down this very important part of the debate. And I want to thank the member Tim McIndoe for his very informative comments on the derivation of the name Parana Park. But I do say to him he is not the member in the chair. And I think in order for that particular piece of information to have credibility, we need to hear it from the member David Bennett in the chair. This is a member who's known for being all over the detail, known for being all about facts. And I think while as an honourable member, I take Mr Mcindoe at his word until we hear that information from Mr Bennett about where the name Parana Park came from, it's very difficult to take Mr Mcindoe at his word. And the name is particularly important because there's a story about Hamilton that's very, very relevant to this piece of legislation. And that's when I was there for a Labour Party regional conference. I was going for a lovely walk along the riverside and came across Luna Park in Hamilton. Now, to my horror and dismay, Mr Chair, Luna Park has nothing in it at all that justifies it carrying the name Luna Park. There's nothing about space travel, there's nothing about Hamilton's City of the Future in Luna Park, and I worry that the name Parana Park here may also not be relevant to the particular area. Now, the member Sue Moroney tries to convince me that at some point there was a slide shaped like a rocket ship, and I believe her, but I have to say that I told you. Thank you, Mr Mallard. Always welcome contributions, particularly during my speeches. Particularly helpful. But I just want to feel. I want to know from the member in the chair in particular that the name Parana Park is relevant to the piece of land that we are discussing, unlike Luna Park, which to this day remains a gross misrepresentation of that particular piece of land in Hamilton, and a huge disappointment to those of us in the science and innovation area who went there expecting to see the living embodiment of Hamilton's City of the Future and found nothing. Nothing. An old slide, a couple of swings, nothing. That's pretty much it. So I'm interested to hear from the member in the chair an absolute assurance that the name Parana Park is absolutely relevant in this area. And I want to pick up on a very important point raised by my colleague Jacinda Ardern when she was cut off by the bell, which is this idea of passive recreation. Because I was also very interested to read that this part of the bill, go away Trevor, that this part of the bill, that this piece of legislation is for the provision of land for passive recreation. And I think we need a definition from the member in the chair of what actually constitutes. And I notice Mr Okenvold is telling me not to open that particular door, but I then say to the member who's interjecting, he was the chair of the select committee. Why did he put in the report back the definition passive recreation if he's not prepared now to tell us what it is and assure us that the title Hamilton City Council Parana Park Land Vesting Bill is appropriate for the provision of passive recreation? Because as my colleague Jacinda Ardern quite rightly pointed out, if people were to move into the area of active recreation, Mr Mallard, be quiet, then they could be outside the intent of the legislation, as Parliament had intended. So I wonder, I think Mr Okenvold could possibly take a call and explain why, as chair of the select committee, he decided that the intent of this legislation was the provision of an area to be vested for passive recreation, but did not provide Parliament with a definition of what passive recreation was. And I think that that's a fair point, and that maybe Mr Bennett might feel compelled to take a call on the definition of passive recreation. And I have to say, whenever we see a piece of legislation with the words land vesting in the title coming from the National Party, we automatically take notice and we want to know about the detail of that. It may not be a government bill, but this may be the way of getting things through in another way, because, of course, because we do trust the City Council, but of course we're going through some very interesting debates in the House at the moment around the vesting of particular areas of land where the government have been less than forthcoming in terms of their intentions. And I want to know, when I see these words in the title, land vesting, that we're not talking about the kind of land vesting that Parliament is about to push through.
Chairman. Michael Woodhouse.
Mr. Chairman. Be now put.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
And Mr. Chairman, I apologise if I repeat some points that colleagues have made, because I have been held up in meetings, but I think as the member in charge of the bill and his colleague from Hamilton West know, it's an area that I do know relatively well, and as a number of us know, is the basis for the Anzac Day services in the memorials, and it was one of the sort of interesting things as a first-time MP. I'd been to the services before, but I'd never marched as part of the march. And on the way to Parana Park, people had to break their step in order not to all be banging on the bridge at the same time and causing it damage. It's fair to say that I was slightly concerned about that. When you were seeing 45-tonne trucks going over the bridge, the idea that a few old soldiers could break it as they went across was something which concerned me. But that was a practice, and it might have been something. It might have been a habit that had been developed from the Bailey bridges or the other bridges that people had used, that the engineers had built in time of war. But Mr. Speaker, I do want to, Mr. Chairman, go to the question of the title, and to go particularly to the name Parana Park, and I have two substantive questions of the member in the chair, and the first is by way of confirmation that Parana is in fact the name of a South American river, which one of the founders of Hamilton visited on the way to Hamilton. Sorry? Not to be the case. Well, it's fair to say that I spent quite a lot of time at the time of a previous debate researching Parana to try and work out where they are and what the links are and where this came from. And I haven't heard the explanation yet. And if you did hear, you heard. Well, I apologise for that. So. No, it's all right. It's okay if the House has heard an explanation. Was it believable and acceptable? Well, if that's fine, I'll go on to my second substantive point, which I want to address to my colleague from the Maori Party, who is currently in the House, and that is whether or not she, and for that matter the Deputy or the Associate Minister of Maori Affairs, are happy with the way that the Geographic Board process has been bypassed in this way in order to remove a traditional Maori name, not from the whole park, but from the section of the park at the south end, the end of the town, the brewery end, if you like, of the brewery end of the park. And I just want to say that setting up names by way of legislation which override other acts, as this will do, because as we know, the specific overrides the general in these matters. What this does is mean that a name which had traditionally been used for the southern section back, just indicating the brewery's on the other side of the river, but it's on the south. No, it's not actually. It's because you go over the bridge and turn left. So I'm right. It is. It's the southern end. It's the other. It's the other bit of the park. I think the member in charge of the bill understands the section of the park that I'm talking about that has traditionally been ascribed a Maori name. It's certainly been referred to that way, and I don't know about recent times, but in the roughly 20 years ago when I was a member in Hamilton, or slightly more than 20 years ago, when I was a member in Hamilton, it was certainly referred to in that way. And I just wondering what Tainui think of the decision to override their traditional name and to not use the process of the Geographic Board, which is the normal process. And I'd say, Mr. Chairman, the Geographic Board has traditionally tended to leave options open to use either the imported names or the Maori names. In this case, that is a right that has been taken away from the Maori of Hamilton.
Chris Tremaine.
I move that the question be now put.
The question is that the question be now put. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary will say no.
No.
The ayes have it?
No, sir.
Party vote. I'll ask the clerk for a party vote.
New Zealand National.
57 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
41 votes opposed.
Green Party.
In favour?
ACT New Zealand.
Act.
Māori Party.
It's in favour.
Act.
Progressive. United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Honourable Chris Carter. Hone Harawira. Any other votes?
New Zealand, 5 votes in favour.
Not only Hone forgets when to vote.
Members, the ayes are 78, the noes are 42. The question will be put. The question is that Clause 1 stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary will say no. The ayes have it. Members, the time has come for me to leave the chair. I shall resume the chair at 7:30.